I had planned to go about this a completely different way. But the powers that be changed their mind. They said, no, we're not going to run that story. That story, nobody needs to know that. And I pushed so much that they decided to tell me to clear out my office, which is why there's a Papasan chair in the back of my car. I don't care. I don't care that I lost my job over this. This is something that needs to come out. So this is not going to be polished. This is not going to be refined. This is not going to be what I planned for it to be. I was creating a little informative expose, if you will, about social media. We love social media, don't we? Social media has become a crucial part of how I communicate with the world. It helps influence things like what I buy and where I go, what kind of experiences I seek out, right? We have so much information just at our fingertips, and it's so tempting to continuously get on there. There's a reason for that. There is a reason that you are driven to grab your phone and look at it, to open Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. There's a reason. The more research I did, the more in-depth I got into their tactics, the more I understand that while it is enjoyable and while it is very helpful in a lot of respects, and I get a lot out of it, and there is a seedy underbelly to the whole thing. So part of what I'm going to do, because I was preparing this, like I said, I was preparing this in a different way, a different format, but I no longer have access to the studio. I can't do it the way I was planning. So part of this is going to be this, and part of it I'm going to read. I'm going to read what I have, because I have sources. I have sources, and it's important. So I'm going to just start. Okay, I'm just going to start. Social media has become a huge part of our lives. So much so that it's almost to the point of addiction. From Facebook to Instagram, TikTok to Snapchat, our culture is inundated with ways to connect without having to leave the comfort of our homes. We watch people's lives through their carefully curated lenses. The temptation to compare ourselves, especially for adolescents and young adults, is immense. What, if any, are the negative side effects of this kind of interaction? Prolonged use of these platforms has been linked to heightened levels of anxiety and depression, particularly among adolescents and young adults. Amethylglim 2024. I apologize. I'm going to butcher some names. I'm also not wearing my glasses. Why is this? Experts who study internet use say that the magnetic allure of social media arises from the way the content plays to our neurological impulses and wiring, such that consumers find it hard to turn away from incoming streams of information. Ritual, ND. Social media platforms have done extensive research on ways to drive more traffic to their platforms and ways to engage people longer. Intermittent reinforcement is at the root of technology. I'm sorry. I'm still really rattled from everything. Let me back up. Intermittent reinforcement is at the root of technology obsession. It is the behavioral undercurrent that keeps you compulsively checking your device. Wilding, 2017. You may be wondering what exactly intermittent reinforcement is. Intermittent reinforcement is defined as a type of behavioral conditioning that creates a connection to the desired behavior with rewards that are delivered with irregularity. This creates a strong drive for the subject to engage in the desired behavior in the hopes that they will be rewarded. In particular, intermittent reinforcement may have significant effects. Teenagers who utilize social media show an intense desire to keep using it since they are uncertain if they will be approved or recognized. The reward pathways in the brain can be triggered by any expectation of achieving social approval. Amrithligalim 2024. I apologize about this. I know I'm butchering that person's name. I will write them an apology note. Intermittent reinforcement also explains how you end up wasting hours on your phone. Every reward gives you a boost to the pleasure centers of the brain that reinforces the behavior and keeps you going further down the rabbit hole. Wilding, 2017. According to a 5-question survey that I sent out to a wide range of age groups and socioeconomic backgrounds, the general public is relatively unaware of what intermittent reinforcement is and how it is utilized by social media platforms to drive users to prolong their engagement. The first question I asked was, how much time do you spend on social media in a given week? Options are 1 to 3 hours, 4 to 6 hours, 7 to 9 hours, or 10 plus hours. The majority of participants selected 10 plus hours. The second question was, are you familiar with the term intermittent reinforcement? Intermittent reinforcement is a technique that rewards behaviors randomly instead of every time, creating unpredictability and motivation. The options were, yes, I already knew this. No, I had never heard this before. Maybe I had heard the term, but I didn't know what it meant. The majority of the participants said I had never heard of this before. The third question was, did you know that social media platforms use strategies like intermittent reinforcement to cause their users to access their platforms more often? The options were yes or no. The majority of participants selected no. The fourth question was, do you think there should be limits placed on social media platforms in regard to their use of tactics like intermittent reinforcement, given the studies showing how the use of such tactics causes changes in neurological pathways? The options were yes or no. The majority of participants selected yes. The fifth question was, may I have your permission to use your response on a public platform? Every participant gave me their permission. I was going to do this where I showed the information, in the studio. I would have had access to graphics and things, but I digress. No such luck. So I'm just going to show you the screen. These are the charts. This is the first one. Well, this is did you know that social media, they're not in order. Apparently when I put these together, I didn't put them in order. I just stuck them in there. This is the social media platforms. Did you know that they use the strategies? The little green line is yes. The blue line is no. This one is the one about limits. Now, there are some people that don't think that it matters. Like, why should we limit people, limit entities? People should be able to limit themselves, I'm assuming, is what is being said here. But I digress. And then are you familiar with the terms? No is the blue line, yellow is the maybe, green is the yes. How much time do you spend on social media? Now, this one, there's not a huge discrepancy between the bottom of 10 plus hours and the, 7 to 9 hours. But still, 10 hours went out. And then that's just the yes. So, given that research shows a greater risk of addictive tendencies coupled with higher anxiety and depression should the government place restrictions on use of intermittent reinforcement? Among the groups that completed my survey, 68% thought that there should be restrictions enforced on social media platforms, while 32% didn't think that it was necessary. While a group of 41 states and the District of Columbia filed a suit on Tuesday, December 8th, 2020 against Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger, contending that the company knowingly used features on its platform to cause children to use them compulsively, even as the company said that its social media sites were safe for young people. Rachel Indy. The suit was dismissed, but as has been reworked 3 different times, trying different angles to get traction in the justice system. Unfortunately, it would seem that the mental health of our children isn't enough a reason to hold social media platforms like Meta accountable for their intrusive tactics. Just because something is legal, that doesn't make it ethical. Society needs to protect the minds of our younger members. If we don't, who will? Making guidelines for social media platforms to follow is a good start. I'm not denying that there are benefits to social media, but Dr. Green agreed that there clearly are valuable uses for the internet and that the definition of how much is too much can vary. But he said there are also clearly cases where excessive use interferes with school, sleep, and other vital aspects of a healthy life. Too many young consumers can't put it down, he said. The internet is a giant hyperdromic content, including social media like Meta, are the psychoactive drugs. Rachel Indy. Intermittent rewards are a double-edged sword, it would seem. They can drive engagement and motivation and growth when used constructively. Mark 2025. The brain's responses to intermittent reinforcement is rooted in dopamine, the feel-good chemical. When rewards are unpredictable, your brain releases more dopamine than it would for predictable rewards. Mark 2025. Isn't that interesting? It's unpredictable, so our brain gets more excited. It's like a toxic relationship. So, this brings me to my question. When is enough going to be enough? We are teetering on the edge of enslaving an entire generation to their devices. Screen time for adolescents is higher than ever, albeit screens in the grand scheme of things haven't been around that long, but since they became a thing, since the first tablet type thing, it has just escalated and escalated. And I know a lot of it is parents are just exhausted, and it's just easier to say yes and to give them what they're asking for, but they don't know what they're asking for. They don't know what they're asking for is doing to their brain. And I think it's important for parents to understand. So with the escalation in screen time, we are seeing a rise in depression and anxiety among children. Who's going to stand in the gap and put a stop to the relentless pursuit of greed? Because that's what it is. Greed at the cost of our children's mental and physical well-being. Who's going to stop them? Thank you. Thank you for hearing me.